Hello everyone and welcome to another vintage video. It's been a while since I did one of these actually, but we are prepping for the Magic Online Content Creator Showdown on March 15th, which I will be taking part in, and the format for that Content Creator Showdown is indeed vintage. So we are taking a look at the vintage format, and I'm pretty excited about this one actually, because I get to play a deck that I really enjoy. I was doing some waffling on this, and I was trying to figure out what deck I was going to play, and honestly, I think it's just going to be Oath of Druids. I absolutely love Oath of Druids. It is one of my favorite vintage decks. I do enjoy playing it quite a bit, and we get to try something new with this vintage Oath of Druids list. So one of the new cards that came out in Aetherdrift is a card called Stock Up, and I'll see if we can get it up on the screen here. So Stock Up is a 2 and a blue sorcery that says look at the top 5 cards of your library, put the 2 of them in your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library of any order. In Vintage, this is a pretty powerful effect right now. There has been a lot of gameplay around Lurrus of the Dream Den, Psychic Frog, Orcish Bowmasters is a card that has been floating around quite a bit, and realistically, Stock Up kind of bypasses the Orcish Bowmasters aspect of things. The mana cost is quite right. 2 and a blue is pretty easy to produce in Vintage. Lots of cards like Soul Ring, Mana Crypt, Black Lotus, Moxen make it real easy to cast this card. And honestly, getting to look at 5 cards and then getting 2 of them, it's pretty good. It's a great rate. It's not quite Dig Through Time. Dig Through Time is still quite a little bit better, but obviously there's a reason why Dig Through Time is restricted. And that's the big thing about Stock Up currently is it's not restricted. You can play 4 of these. And honestly, if you're a blue deck in Vintage right now and you can afford to play 4 of these cards, you should probably be playing 4 of these cards. It's a very good card. It looked very good in every match I played in this league that I'm going to go over here. But yeah, it's a fantastic card. It's nice to see when cards like this kind of enter into the Vintage format. Vintage is a format that has historically absorbed new cards pretty well, but it is nice to see when a card makes a splash like this, and also seems like it's a card that should have been here from the get-go. This definitely feels like an effect that has existed in the format for a long time, even though it's brand new. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, so we are, like I said, we are prepping for the Magic Online Content Creator Showdown, thanks to the Magic Online Content Creator Program provided by Daybreak Games that I am a part of. So we decided to play around with a league on this. I did play 3 leagues worth of the Glaring Fleshraker Workshops deck that's been floating around, and it definitely seemed high variance, high reward. It definitely seemed like there were a lot of games where I ended up with a lot of mana, more mana than I thought I would ever have. My first league with that deck was a 2-3, and my second 2 leagues were 0-3 into drops. Just lots of poor variance, lots of bad draws. And honestly, I like casting Ancestral Recall. So being able to cast Ancestral Recall and Force of Will is great, but I also didn't want to play Lurrus, and I definitely have a lot of experience playing Oath of Druids in the past. I've played it in paper events before. It is a lot of fun. So for those that aren't aware of what Oath of Druids is really intending to do, Oath is a combo control deck that seeks to deploy Oath of Druids into play alongside either your opponent just naturally having a creature or using Forbidden Orchard to give them a creature. So Oath of Druids says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses target player who controls more creatures than they do and is their opponent. It's a lot of text. So the first player may reveal cards at the top of the library until they reveal a creature card. If the first player does, that player puts that card on the battlefield, and all other cards revealed this way into their graveyard. Obviously, our Oath target is Atraxa Grand Unifier. When it enters the battlefield, you reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you can put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand. And you put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. But it's also a flying 7/7, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink creature. Yeah, very powerful. Atraxa has definitely become one of the best Oath targets of all time. It's a very good card. It kills people really quickly. But also, that trigger is insane. And if you are able to get Atraxa and then maybe get a Time Walk as your sorcery, you're winning that game. It's just the way it is. It also refills your hand with things like Force of Will, Force of Negation, and whatnot. And what Oath has become because of this creature is not only are we getting to play Oath of Druids, we also get to play Show and Tell. And so having the Show and Tell aspect of this deck means that you're able to also beat cards like Grafdigger's Cage, which is one of the more common ways to attack Oath of Druids, is by playing a copy of Grafdigger's Cage, and they can't Oath. But it only cuts off Oath. It doesn't cut off Show and Tell. So I really like these versions of the deck. You can definitely do well with them. There's lots of ways to get Atraxa into play. You also have Flash as a way to get Atraxa into play. It's restricted, but you do have a way to use that to get an Atraxa into play. You are going to sacrifice that Atraxa once it's in play with Flash, but you get to put an Atraxa into play at instant speed and possibly get that trigger and get, to look at 10 cards and put possibly 5 to 6 cards in your hand, depending on what you end up with. So it's a great deck. I had a lot of fun with it in this league, and I will get over to the matches here shortly, but we will take a look at this, and thank you guys for watching this week. I'm going to get back more into doing these videos, so thank you all, and we'll get over to match 1 shortly. Okay, so here we are at match 1. Match 1 was a 2-1 result. It was a win for us. So we are going to go through the replays of this game and kind of analyze where things kind of happened, and we're going to kind of step through step by step. So we were on the draw in this match, and honestly, it's a pretty good opening hand. They definitely have to respect the fact that we have Force plus blue card, but we also have a way to Oath on turn 1, which is always the best. So our opponent was on the Glaring Fleshraker Shops deck, and they opened on a Mishra's Workshop. Now, really, the key to playing against this deck is to understand where to force and what to force. Not everything is super threatening, and you can even beat cards like Scrawling Crawler out of this deck. Honestly, Scrawling Crawler is kind of like a free creature for you. You don't have to have Forbidden Orchard, so you're kind of okay with them having a Scrawling Crawler. For record, Scrawling Crawler is a artifact creature that basically says whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose a life. And at the beginning of your upkeep, each player gets to draw a card. It's a 3/2 for 3 mana. But obviously, we're not going to force this mana vault here because that would be silly. It's mana. So Manifold Key, pretty rough, and they get to do this thing, but still, it's not a bad thing. So Scrawling Crawler's fine. I'm okay with seeing that card. What I'm not okay with seeing is Glaring Fleshraker. Glaring Fleshraker would be the force here, if it did come through. But I wouldn't force a Scrawling Crawler, not out of Oath. You get to just have a free creature in play. Yeah, you're going to lose a life drawing a card here, but that is hardly the biggest issue. Okay, so yeah, we get to just Oath of Druids. And we have a Show and Tell in hand, so not only do you get to Oath, but next turn you could also show and tell as well. So each player gets to draw a card. Forbidden Orchard's pretty good. They can't untap their Mana Vault with Manifold Key because Mishra's Workshop only casts artifact spells. So they can't use it for artifact abilities. They get to take a damage as well. Ancient Tomb is problematic. Here they get to untap their Mana Vault. Now the One Ring is a card that's definitely worth forcing. And the reason I say that is because they get protection from everything, we don't get to Oath. And that's awkward. They have 2 cards at hand. They could Glaring Fleshraker, but I think Oath is Ring is a card that is okay forcing. And we can pitch one of the Atraxas to that because we still have that Show and Tell. So they get to attack and they get in for 3. But we get to Oath. And not only do we get to Oath, we get to Gaia's Blessing that. And this is a really good Oath, or a really good Atraxa. So we get Time Walk, I think is like the biggest important thing. So we get Time Walk, we get Force of Will as our instant and our sorcery. We get Soul Ring as an artifact. That's just absolutely busted. And they concede to that because they see the Time Walk. We also have the Show and Tell in hand. We can just do this again. And we Gaia's Blessing our graveyard back into our library, so it doesn't really matter. So on to Game 2. Game 2 was a little bit rougher for us. Being on the draw, it's rough. I don't really know why I kept this hand. This is probably a hand I shouldn't have kept. Because Patchwork Automaton is actually pretty scary, and I probably should have forced it. But I wasn't thinking about just how scary Patchwork Automaton is. Now, granted, we did force the Lodestone Golem. That was nuts. Lodestone would have been lights out regardless for us, I think. But I also probably should have boarded out Vaccine Bobble against this deck. On the draw, especially, I would say. On the draw, I don't think Vaccine Bobble is very good against this deck as a restricted copy. It's high variance. They're probably not going to be... They're going to have all the opportunity in the world to play all their 0 drops. So that's going to be something that's going to occur. So yeah, on the draw, I would probably board it out. But, woof. They are right off to the races here. And having the One Ring and a 7/7. I scooped it up at that point because there's just no way I'm gonna beat them without the mana acceleration. What should have happened there is I should have mulliganed, and I should have tried to find a little bit more of an aggressive hand. But match 3, or right, game 3, I should say. We're back on the play, and that really benefits us. So Black Lotus into Null Rod, pretty good. So they play Grafdigger's Cage. We do that. We mental misstep it. They concede to that, which is wild. But hey, I'm not gonna complain. We have a Force of Will in hand. We're probably not casting that stock up at some point. We're just using it as force material until we can get like an Oath or draw something. But I will take a easy concession in that regards. So let's go over to game 2, match 2 of this league, and I'll see you all there shortly. Okay, and we are here for match 2 of Oath of Druids in Vintage. So we are going to start with game 1. We are on the play. It's a great place to be for Oath. Being on the play is kind of great in that first game. because you do get that opportunity to just kind of like jam your game plan of getting an Oath into play and not caring what your opponent's doing. It's a fantastic, like, we get to Oath, but then we also either get to hold up, we get to Oath, but we also get to hold up Force of Will, which is fantastic. Yeah, it's not an Oath with a Forbidden Orchard, which would be great, but it is something. It does keep them off playing creatures, which is kind of nice. So, our opponent in this round was also on the Fleshraker deck. And I'm okay with this One Ring because we don't have to worry about the protection trigger. We're not worried about Oath of Druids not working because they don't have any creatures. What we do get to do here is we get to give them a creature. So we get to cast Oko and Elk their One Ring. And now they have a 3/3, which is going to trigger that Oath the next turn. And so they're going to try and do some stuff here. Top, I'm okay with. I almost never am going to counter Sensei's Divining Top. Seems real silly, unless you have like a mental misstep to just throw it at. That might be just the wrong play. They do have a Scrawling Crawler. I'm okay with that still. They're going to attack Oko. Oko gets to go down to 2. But we get to have an Atraxa. So this is a pretty good. We get another Atraxa. We get Force of Will, Beseiju, Mox Ruby, Strip Mine, probably. Pretty reasonable. We get to draw a card. Yeah, we get to... Yeah, we'll lose a life from having that. They have a Lodestone Golem in hand, which is rough. I'm okay with losing some life. So what we do is we Elk the Scrawling Crawler. I should have done that before I cast Gitaxian Probe. That seems really silly to me. But yeah, we Elk the Scrawling Crawler so we can cast Brainstorm. We have a lot of mana, but we only have 1 blue mana, so we're not casting the stock up. But we do have 3 Force of Wills and another Atraxa. So I think we're reasonably in a great spot for beating this deck. So they do swing on Oko, which is fair. Oko does do some things here, and that makes it kind of rough. So they attempt the Lodestone Golem. We're just going to Force Will that. And recast the top, yep. Now we get to stock up, though. Ancestral and Forbidden Orchard's pretty reasonable. Gives us a way to give them another creature to keep triggering Oath. And getting to attack, just in general, put them to 6. Us go backing up to 28. That's great. And we just have all the answers in the world, and they just decide to concede. So, going into game 2. This was definitely a hardcore mulligan. This seemed better. It was really hard to decide what to get pitch here. It probably should have been pitch the Forbidden Orchard in lieu of the other card, but I think we were hoping we were going to get something. Mystic Forge is definitely problematic. So we force a negation it. The Null Rod stinks if we don't have an accelerant for it. Lotus Null Rod is an okay, reasonable thing. I probably should have just done Lotus Hold Up Force of Vigor. Having the The Orchard strip mine here also kind of stinks. We do get to, like, blow up the thing, but now we're drawing nothing but, like, artifact mana and mana. We're both kind of, like, drawing blanks, but at the same time, their blanks with a Mishra's Workshop are much better than my blanks. They passed the turn, though. Consign to Memory is reasonable here. This is where I wish that we would have had an actual, like, land instead of the Forbidden Orchard, but drawing yet another Moxen, which is rough. And they're just, like, building up stuff in their hand. They're not even playing lands. Show and Tell is a sucky draw when we have nothing to use it with. Other Forbidden Orchard kind of stinks. Automaton stinks, and so we have to try and counter it with Consign to Memory. Does give them a creature, though. Oko is not good because we don't have enough mana. And really what seals it is this other Patchwork. Because even if they can't activate things, Patchwork doesn't care about that. It cares a lot about other stuff. So, Ancestral, we can't cast Oath of Druids because it's under Disruptor Flute. Just not a pleasant game. Saw the writing on the wall. This thing's only going to get bigger. So we scooped it up, go to game 3. I think I should have mulliganed a little bit more aggressively in that game. Is really what it boils down to. So game 3 on the draw, or sorry, on the play again. Saga, Lotus, Automaton. We try to hunt and see if we could find something for this. There's nothing. Double Automaton stinks. We at least get to Force of Vigor, like their land. Yeah, we get to put Oath in play. So, yeah, we're going to take some damage here. Like, that's 9 points of damage. But we do get to Oath. And that's Oath plus Time Walk, which is just fantastic. Oath, Ancestral, Time Walk. We're getting to do everything in this game. In fact, we gotta pitch a card, and yeah, we get to do Oath again because they still have more creatures than us. So, yeah, pretty standard fare there for an Oath on the play type game. We didn't even really need the Null Rod, even though we brought it in. So, yeah. We'll be on to match 3 here shortly. Okay, and we are here for match 3 of this Oath of Druids Trophy League. So, as we will see. So, we were on the draw here. And, yeah. This... I don't know why I kept this. I think I thought, oh, there's a lot going on here. There's Force, there's blue card. Having a mana crit plus maybe a Show and Tell seems kind of nuts. No blue lands. Sure, like we should get to strip mine the Urza Saga. They are playing Lurrus, so this was our first Lurrus deck of the league. But yeah, they get to do some things. We do have stock up, Ancestral. We were hoping to hit a land. We get to force the Bowmasters. We get to show and tell. Put Atraxa into play. Lulls, Time Walk. Just all the fun stuff. Yeah. And they draw their card and they concede to that. It's pretty textbook at that point. We have enough action with the forces and stuff that we're winning the game. So let's move on to game 2. Game 2, we are again on the draw. And I love Stock Up. This card is just absolutely nuts. And having Mana Crypt to enable Stock Up is just even better. Like, we get to do... So we took Force of Will and Oath. We get to play out the... Oh, so double Force. So we have double Force plus blue card plus Oath. So plus Forbidden Orchard. So we get to Oath. They force a negation. We force a will back. They now have a creature. They're definitely going to attack here with this 1/1 spirit. That's totally fine. Demonic Tutor, and they cast Grafdigger's Cage, and we get to force the Grafdigger's Cage, which is what really makes this great. We won the Mana Crypt flip. That's awesome. Mana Crypt flips matter a lot less when you have Atraxa in play, that's for sure. I will give this deck that. So we get Ancestral, Seiju. Actually, we picked the Polluted Delta, sorry. Show and Tell, Oath. That's a pretty reasonable Atraxa. So we get to Vexing Bubble, Ancestral Recall, Oko, and Oko is kind of what seals the deal there. So they concede to the Oko. Because, yeah, having all this extra stuff going on, there's no way they're winning, especially since we already got to kind of do some things. So, yeah, we're going to move on to match 4 here shortly. Okay, and we are here for match 4 of this league. So let's go ahead and jump right into game 1. So, prefacing this, that I actually had no idea what my opponent was playing in this game, in this match. That's kind of how quickly things went. So, we have a lot of action here. There's double Force blue card, double Show and Tell. Obviously, we're getting rid of that Vexing Bauble. We want to be able to cast this Black Lotus. We'll play Lotus and Misty Rainforest. They get to Probe. That's totally fine. Lorien revealed. I just hard countered it with Force Negation. They didn't need to draw cards. We Hedge Mazed. I saw Soul Guide Lantern here, which was kind of goofy. We get to put our Atraxa into play. And they didn't even bother to, like, concede to, like, get to see, like, what the cards I was going to get out of Atraxa. They just conceded to the Atraxa trigger, which is kind of odd, but okay, sure. They had put in a Null Rod off of the Show and Tell. All their cards are foil, which is awesome. At the same time, I have no idea what my opponent was doing in this game at all, and I have no idea what they did for the entire match. So, wow. Okay, so let's go to game 2. We're on the draw, and yeah, this is reasonable. We get to Time Walk. Like, that's really the play here. We go Mox, Sapphire, Island, Time Walk, and then we get to go Forbidden Orchard, Oath of Druids, hold up Flusterstorm, which is groovy. So they Mana Crypt, fetch Undercity Sewers. They lost the flip. They wastelanding my thing. Time Walk. We're just going to fluster the Time Walk. and they conceded to that. They conceded to flustering the Time Walk, which is wild, but I get it. Like, it's still kind of nuts, but yeah. So I really just legitimately had no idea what my opponent was playing. It's pretty amazing. So we are going to go on to match 5, the final match in this league. All right, here we are with the final match of this league. So let's go ahead and jump right into game 1 of this match. So being on the play, again, as I alluded to earlier, it's really good for Oath. You really just want to be on the play consistently. Yeah, getting to Gitaxian Probe them, getting to see Force Negation, Spell Pierce, stock up. Honestly, more players should counter Time Walk. Especially if they had Wasteland in hand, they should have countered the Time Walk. I made a mistake here. I should have played, used the Forbidden Orchard instead, and I did not. So that was fun. The stock up is a card that they can absolutely do. We did get to do the Forbidden Orchard here. We get to get Force plus blue card. Is really what it boils down. It's Force plus blue card. But we could have done this on our turn 2, or our turn 3, I guess, would have been with our extra turn if I had just put the Forbidden Orchard into play. So we're a turn slower than I should have been here. So that was a mistake. So Atraxa. And they conceded to the Atraxa trigger in this case. So, yeah. It just didn't scroll down on my side here. But, yeah, they definitely conceded to the Atraxa trigger. So, let's go over to game 2. On the draw. So that's rough. Not where we want to be, but it is a thing. I mulliganed. I probably should have kept the first hand. It was a real bad mulligan to 5. We do get to probe them. They do have Wasteland and Merchant Scroll. Merchant Scroll for Force of Will. It doesn't really matter what we do with this stock up. They're going to force it. Which, honestly, I think that's correct. Force of Willing stock up when you have Psychic Frog in hand is pretty good. Because Psychic Frog's just going to draw you so many cards over the course of the game. You just want to protect that card. Yeah, we Hedge Maze. We try to get to Show and Tell, and they definitely have the counter spell for it, which is rough. So they get to attack with Psychic Frog. They get to put some counters on it. Getting Lurrus in hand. Force of Willing, Oath of Druids. Just not enough action there to push through all of the issues. So we definitely just scooped it up, go to game 3. One important thing to know about this deck is when you are beaten. I think that's a huge thing. You can fight through a lot, but honestly, just knowing when you're going to be beaten and when you're, when you've lost the game is real important, because it's real important to know when to cut your losses and go to a different game with this kind of deck. So we mulliganed. Stock up. They had a really strong start here. This Cage, I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe we can hold on to like something. We can Time Walk. We get to stock up. They Force Will it. We really thought for a real hardcore minute in this game that we were going to lose, because they had all sorts of like action and card draw, and like even probing them. Like they have Force of Will, Momentum Breaker. They Force of Will the Oko. And we're on like turn 4, and they've countered like tons of stuff. Undercity Sewer. So Psychic Frog, they have 3 cards in hand. They can't put Psychic Frog out of Dismember range, so we get to at least Dismember the Psychic Frog. I mean, we have Force, double Forces. The awkward thing is I didn't realize that Momentum Breaker also makes you discard a card if you can't sacrifice something. So that's pretty silly. Force Negation, we're not casting hard casting. They have Wasteland. Yeah, for a while there, it seemed real dicey. Like, we're like, okay, neither of us are doing anything. We're building up resources. Keeping me off of mana seemed fine. We Gaia's Blessinged. Which just felt weird, but we just like, okay, well, we gotta do something. So they put Lurrus in hand. We were holding on to this whole thing. So we got a show and tell at least. So that part's good. But we were kind of just holding on to seeing if we could get past something. So okay, they Orcish Bowmastered us. Triggering the speed, which is wild. So Lurrus. So I think the biggest thing here was like, okay, so we, instead of them being able to use this Lurrus, we utter insignificant to this Lurrus. That makes it so that they can't use Lurrus' abilities because Lurrus has no abilities at that point. I also realized I was trying to cast Atraxa. They put a Momentum Breaker in play, which is rough. But like, hey, look at that. We ended up with a Time Walk out of that, so that's pretty good. That Oath is stinky. Hey, show and tell Alpha the stock up, which is pretty good. Lotus, Atraxa, Utter Insignificant, Strip Mine. We get to just do a whole bunch of things here. We get to Oko. They did annul the Lotus, which is fine. But they're not attacking into this, and we get to just attack for 7. Now, granted, they could sacrifice Momentum Breaker and get some speed life out of that, but we have double Force plus blue card, and so that kind of seals the deal, and they concede. And yeah, that was a wild game, honestly. There were a couple spots that looked really dicey in that game. The other thing to know when playing this deck is not only when you're behind and it's time to cut and you're go to the next game, especially if like you're in game 2, is also when to stick it out, because this deck has a lot of inevitability if it sticks it out. But there were just that second game felt very unwinnable. I was already down quite a bit in card quality and card quantity, that it just felt untenable for me to keep playing. So I definitely wanted to be on the play against this Lurrus deck. And yeah, it's Lurrus control, the Dimir Lurrus Psychic Frog deck. So I personally don't think that matchup's that bad. I know some people do. I know some people think Lurrus is a bad matchup for Oath, but I think it's actually much better than it looks. But yeah, so that's this league. It's definitely an incredibly fun deck. We did trophy this league, so yeah, it's pretty cool. I think I found my deck for the Magic Online Content Creator Showdown, because it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of experience with it, and I'm looking forward to that event. So if you're gonna watch, I will be streaming that Saturday. So that is March 15th, and the event starts at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or 9 a.m. Pacific time. So be sure to be on. Check me out over on twitch.tv/FullWrathXP. And check out all the links in the description. Come follow my content. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. I am definitely going to get back into doing some more of the What Does This Deck Do series. And I would like to do a lot more gameplay videos. But for now, I hope you have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you all next Saturday for the Magic Online Content Creator Showdown. Thank you again to Daybreak Games for including me as part of the Magic Online Content Creator Program. They are an awesome group of people, and it's amazing to work with them. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your week.